In this little tutorial, I want to teach you about the layering stencils that are on the USB, and there's loads of different ways of using them. And the first way we're going to use them is with ink, which is nice. So I'm going to show you where I got the file from and how you access the files, and then what you do after that. And I know there'll be loads of you out there watching this going, we know how to do that, Mel. Well, I know you do, but there are also lots of people that have never done it before, because actually I'd never done it before until we started thinking about doing these stencils. So I've gone into the USB and I've gone through all the extra bits that are on my USB, so we get to the important bit. So once you get into the USB and the projects, you've got all your categories in here, and have a really good look through them. There will be a picture of each stencil in the booklet, so it'll be easy for you to see. We're not expecting you to go into them all and open them up to see what's behind them, so you've got that guide, which is great. But on here we're going to do the layered cards. So what the team have put together is they've done 3 different cards, and we're going to work with card 3, I think. And then you've got the card base and so you've got this, that's the front of the card, you've got the back of the card, and then you go into your layers. So your first layer looks like that, which is quite cool, and you can imagine when that's inked it's going to look fantastic. And it's a half, so you could flip it and do a complete shape if you wanted to. Then we've got layer 2, and then we've got layer 3, and you do it differently with ink than you do with card. So we're going to focus on ink first. So once you've cut out your stencils out of Dough-Flex, you could, with ink, to be honest, use card. So if you've got a 250 GSM card and you want to keep your Dough-Flex for pasting and spritzing and that kind of thing, absolutely you can do it with card because it's less expensive. So then you can, you know, when you need another one, you can just cut another one, right? So it's entirely up to you. With ink, it's fine. With paste, you're going to need to use Dough-Flex for a wet medium like paste or spritzing, because otherwise you're just going to end up with a soggy mess. So just think about that. I'm not saying you have to cut every single one of these out of Dough-Flex. So once you've cut all 3 layers, you have this. So you've got this one that's layer 3. This will be on the top if you were doing your card. And then you've got this one, which is your middle layer. And then you've got this one, which is your smaller layer. Okay. So if I just lift those up for you, you'll be able to see them a little bit better. That's your top layer. And I'll do it this way. That's your middle layer. And this is your back layer. So you can see there how it looks like, it reminds me of a peacock's wings when it opens up, or tail or whatever. Tail, not wings. That would be weird. But a peacock's tail when you open it up. But that's how you're going to use it when you're using it with card. When you're doing it with ink, it's slightly different, and you need to think about the colours that you're using, because you want to use your lightest colour first, so that when you build up in intensity or depth of colour, your darkest one is on top, okay? So I took, and I've done some of this because you don't want to sit there watching me do this for 15 minutes. I took the first one, and the way I do it is I put a little bit of stencil spray or the stencil glue from Pinflair on the back, because I want it to stay flat. And I'm going to be using a circular motion with my brush or my sponge, and I don't want it to go underneath. So I want it to leave me with a really nice crisp finish. So I stick it down, and then I put tape all the way around here. And I'm not going to show you on this one because I'm going to show you on the 3rd layer. So once I've done that, I take that off, and I'm using the Distress Oxides because I've got the right colours in those inks. I dry it off because oxide is a dye pigment blend, so you need to make sure that it's thoroughly dry. And then I take my middle layer and I put that over the top, and I make sure that the points down here are lined up over the yellow, okay? So, and I make sure that it's lined up all the way across, so I get it completely central, and then I go through with my orange. And once you've done those 2 layers, you're left with this. Now you could have it just like that. I think it looks fabulous. But I'm going to add the 3rd layer in. So this is the smallest one of the layers. And that, I'm now going to show you how I tape it up. So I'm going to pop this on here. I haven't got my stencil spray ready, so I'm just going to go with it with tape. And I'm using a low tack tape. So this is a Scotch repositionable tape. And it's just like every other tape, you struggle to find the end, don't you? That's why I don't like wrapping presents, because every time the tape goes back. But you can also tear this tape, so it's good for that. And I'm just going to position the top like that. And I always put the top down first, because if I want at any point to go back in and check that I'm in the right place, it creates a hinge. So I can lift that up, I can have a look, and then I can pop it back down if I need to add more. So that would be my top tip. The next one I'll do will be across the bottom, just because I like working symmetrically. So top, bottom, left and right. I know, it's my dad's fault. I've got that engineering gene, I think. I struggle with wonky or non-symmetrical. And then I just run my nail along the edge of that dough flex just to make sure that tape is holding it in place, because you don't want the stencil to move backwards and forwards like that. This is so much better. I'm loving this, that we can actually do videos for you, because if this was just in a booklet, I'd need a million words and I can't give you all those little top tips. And then, I'm just having a lovely day. I feel like I've come home because I've missed coming to the iHub. And then left-hand side, like that, run your nail down, and then the right-hand side. Now, please don't think that I'm just being very frivolous with this tape, because what I'll do with this is when I've finished, I'll just put it straight in the bin. What you'll do is put it on your desk and wipe it and use it again. But you don't want to see me doing that, and it will hold up all the filming process and we might not get everything done, and I really want to get everything done. So I'm going to pop that down there. So now I've got my third stencil in place. I'm going to take, I've got the yellow, then the orange, and then the red. If I'd done red, the orange wouldn't have showed up and then the yellow wouldn't have showed up. So lightest colour first when you're using your ink. So I've got candied apple. The other colours that I used, the yellow was mustard seed, the orange was spiced marmalade, and this one is candied apple. And then I've got a blending brush, and I really like these brushes. We are working on bringing you something like this. We're just trying to find the right product at the right price for you. And then I'm just going to go over this area, and I can go right over the stencil because it's covering over the other areas. When you're going into an edge, just brush into the edge to make sure that you get that nice finish, and you can rock your brush slightly. If you're using a sponge, they're just as good. And you might want to dab with a sponge. Makeup sponges are good for this. You know, all sorts of different things like that. Just pushing that ink into those areas. And this is why I had 2 layers done, because it does take a few minutes, but at least just doing 1 layer, I can give you loads of hints and tips. So the other thing, and this is a technique that I might do a bit on air because I didn't have a chance to do it because it's a big project, is you could draw inside these, or you could get the machine, so you could put all the layers on the machine on top of each other and get it to draw it, and then you could Zentangle inside it, or Sanntangle, and that would look amazing too. So lots and lots of different things that you can do with a stencil, and this is just the beginning. And I think that's why we wanted to do stencils. And when I said to, because I always run things past Stephanie, I said, right, how many stencils do we need? She said, oh, 100. I was like, okay. So you've got 100 different stencils. You can use each one of these individually. So you've actually got more than 100, but some of them, like there's a corner that goes with the border, things like that. So we've counted that as 1. But you're going to have so much fun with this. It's lovely. And it's very therapeutic, because it's one of those crafts where, like now, I'm putting all this ink down and it looks like a right royal mess to me. But when you do that reveal, you get that butterfly feeling that I've done it. Look at that. It's amazing. And I love that. And I never thought I would get that from ink and a piece of plastic and doing stenciling, because it just wasn't my thing. But after going to Cadence in Turkey and trying stencils with them and using the paste and all the sprays and everything else, I was a little bit addicted. In fact, I'm a lot addicted. But I didn't want to come in bang with all that kind of stuff, because we can do that at a later date. We can, you know, give you more education and teach you more stuff. But I wanted to give you some really good techniques to get started with. And I think when you're trying something new, the fact that you've got this which is familiar and this which is familiar makes that less scary. So I've really thought about, from a new person's not necessarily a new crafter, but you could do it as a new crafter, but somebody who's new to these different techniques, I've tried to make the demos as easy as possible, really, so that anybody can do it, because anybody can do this. My little Alice could do this. It's one of those, you know, get the kids involved. It's a bit of ink. They get it everywhere. It comes off, so it doesn't matter. And just let them have a play. And I'm a big advocate for letting children use your stuff because they get a better result. And when they get a better result, they get more confident. And then they want to do more and more and more, which is lovely. So that's kind of my thing. Now, again, if I was at home, I would remove this stencil now. I would spritz it with some water and I put a piece of watercolour card over the top of it. And I would soak up all that ink. But because we're here and you don't want to wait for me to start cleaning all my stencils, I'm just going to take this off and just go with it. So, tape off. I know everyone's going, oh, look, she's wasting that tape. I know, but you know what? It means we get more filming in, which is more important than a bit of tape. And it's my tape, so I'm in charge. My husband will say to me, why are you doing that? I'm like, because I can. That's become my thing, I think. Especially when it, you know, because Mick doesn't drive and I do. And then he gets in the car and he's like, why are you going this way? Drives me mad. Drives me mad. But my mum used to do it to my dad as well. So it's just a thing now. But yeah, I'm putting the tape in the bin because I can. Put the tape in the bin so that you don't have to sit watching me clean it. And then look, when you lift this up, look at that. How phenomenal does that look? That's brilliant. And all that is a piece of paper, a piece of plastic that you've created those designs on your USB and ink. And that's your card done. A little sentiment. Now, let me show you what I would do with it because I haven't made finished cards because you'll see those on air. That's what I'm going to do with all the bits that we make today. I'm going to make them up into samples for the show because I think it'll be nice for you to see that. So you can have it, I'm going to hold it up so that you can see it from the front. You can have it that way, like that, on a card, on a 10-fold card. And you could have a little sentiment that just went across here to say, you are my sunshine, or something like that. Happy birthday, whatever it is. It doesn't need much more than that because you've got that design. But it's also just as nice like that with a side fold card, because I think that would look spectacular. While the ink is still wet, you could put a clear embossing powder over this red layer that we've just done, and it would make it shiny. So that would look really nice as well. Just be aware that if you're going to do that on each layer, your stencil won't sit completely flat because the embossing won't be completely flat. So be aware of that. Do a little test trial and see if that works. But you could do that on the front of a gift bag. So do it on a separate piece of card, stick it on the front of a gift bag. You could then do the matching card and then you could shrink the file down and do a tag that goes with it. How cool is that? And then if you've got wrapping paper, you could do it on wrapping paper. Now, if I just take this first stencil again and put it on here like this, other side, Melanie. Do you know, I've been doing television this year for 16 years and I still get the cameras the wrong way around. If you do that and do another one, you could make a complete shape. And what that means then is you can put it on your scrapbook layouts in your home decor. So you can go as big as you want or as big as the mat will allow or your dough flex will allow. But we do sell dough flex in 12 by 24. Or you can cut it in half or you can cut bits off. But that's really cool. And that is the first technique just with 3 inks. Just think about your colours. So you could do all blues. So you do a light, a mid and a dark blue. You could do purples, reds, mix them up, whatever. But you need to remember that your lightest colour is your first layer. And then your mid layer is your mid colour. And then your darkest layer is on top so that it works. But that, I think, looks absolutely fabulous.